Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond This, the podcast that talks about everything life, spirit, and all those things in between. Welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Matilda, and I am a professional psychic medium based here in Australia. I've been practicing for well over 20 years and work as a medium, a psychic, spiritual advisor. Anyway, welcome to the rebranded Beyond the Broomstick. I know many of you will be asking why the rebrand, why the change. Simply, we are evolving. I am evolving. My work is evolving, as is everybody. And I felt that beyond this, that title really covers everything that I want to talk about. I get so much amazing feedback from people saying that the topics that I discuss about spiritual growth, about growth in general, and about the purity of the belief in the afterlife, that I felt that this was a natural evolvement. So, welcome to the first episode of Beyond This, but season 4 of the podcast in general. It has been a week, an absolute week. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about mediumship, what to expect, what to look out for, what to avoid, and how mediumship can really help you through grief. But it's not the act of the mediumship reading, it's about the knowing that mediumship is there and your ability to really see the signs that spirit give to you on a day-to-day basis. We have also got the amazing John Edward. I cannot tell you how amazing the conversation was. The moment that we started talking, I felt like I had met an old friend, somebody that I had known for ages. I did say this at the time, and I will say it again. Many times when I speak to people, whether it's for a mediumship reading, whether it's for a psychic reading, people will say to me that I bring a sense of calmness. Now, I often run around like a headless chicken most of the time. The day before I had to interview John, my whole audio system went down. Couldn't work out what it was. It turned out to be a problem with the software that I use, but it took me nearly 12 hours to sort it out. This is why you didn't get a podcast last week, because I just got to the point about 7 o'clock and I went, I cannot record now. I've been trying to fix this all day, actually almost 2 days. I want to sit on my bed and eat pizza, and that is what I had to do. But I always laugh when people say, you're so calm. You always make me feel so comfortable. You have this air around you. If you'd have seen me crying, screaming, being just so anxious and nervous because my whole system decided to pack up, you would laugh at that thought. But I did say to John, I felt the same. It was like I couldn't understand why people felt that connection to me sometimes when I can be an anxious person or I can be higher energy. And then I got a taste of my own medicine from the amazing John Edward, so I'm grateful for that. But our talk talks about mediumship, what to look out for, what to expect. Some of the stories he tells are amazing. And I was kicking myself for days afterwards, wishing that I had asked so many more questions and I could have spoken to him for hours, but you get a good chunk of that. And he was so generous with his time. We spent some time after the interview talking about what we both do, and it was just phenomenal. A full circle moment for me, having first watched him like many others on Crossing Over. It's actually the 25th anniversary this year of Crossing Over. And he was my first glimpse. You've got to remember, this is the days before the internet was so active, the information was so out there, before the days of, I don't even think YouTube and things like that were as available. So I didn't always have a firm grip or understanding of what I was able to do, or that there were people out there wanting to hear what I was able to do. To be perfectly honest, I spent my 20s using it as a party trick. But he gave me the confidence, the knowledge, and the information to do what I do. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. So yeah, we have an amazing interview with John Edward. But first of all, I really want to talk about mediumship in general. What I have always struggled with, especially in the advent of social media, is people that have unrealistic expectations of what a medium can do. We don't have a direct link to ask your loved one if they're happy about the will, if they're happy about where their money was spent. These two-way conversations that we see people fake on social media. And then what happens is that that's people's education on what mediums can do, mediumship, the afterlife in general. And then they come to people like myself and they ask questions that it is unrealistic to expect the answers to. Are you happy with my boyfriend? Are you happy that we sold the house? What do you think about what we're doing with X? I sold the car. Is he unhappy about it? The education that both myself and John Edward do provide, and there's many others, many other mediums like us. I'm not just pinpointing us two. I'm certainly not pinpointing us two. But what social media, even in the people that make predictions that believe they're getting exact things, specific things, then lead to unrealistic expectations. And that's not I want to gaslight you to say to you that what I give you is right, or the predictions that I make are right, or the mediumship way that I perform it is right. But what it is that there has to be educational pieces to this. There has to be some middle ground. We don't do what we do as mediums to entertain. Although it's really odd because on my tax declaration, I have to be classed as an entertainer. We do this to teach and to show that continuation of consciousness. The big message through a lot of what I do has always and always will be that you can pay attention and you don't need a medium to confirm what is. Those signs that you see, whether it is the street sign, whether it is the repetitive numbers that are specific to your loved one, whether it is the music that you hear. I had my own thing that happened when my mum's name, first and surname, was mentioned 3 times when I was listening to an audiobook. Recently, you know that I've lost the buff, and I was feeling very sad and very miserable and talking to him. And I still have his blanket on my bed, which I have a big sniff of every now and again. Yeah, I know, report me, whatever. It just brings me some comfort. And I remember saying, I hope you've got your blanket, because I gave him the blanket from the sofa when he left. And I said, I hope they kept you wrapped in your blanket. And the next thing, I am lying down, doom scrolling on TikTok, and the first video that comes up is, I've got my blanket, mummy. Can we have a cuddle on the sofa now? And there was a toddler with his blanket. That was my sign. So we have to be open to the signs. If we spend our lives looking for the obvious, if we spend our lives with our head in our phone and not engaging with the outside world and noticing the signs, we are never going to see them. Every single one of you will receive the signs from your loved one at some point or another. Are you paying attention for them? Are you looking for them? Because it's really important that you do. You don't need me. You don't need John. What you need to do is pay attention. On that note, I am going to give the latest shout out to the Patreon members that have joined in the last week. If you don't know about Patreon, it is a paid subscription service. There are free videos that I do put up as well, where I have a lot more freedom. I get to give predictions that are free. I get to give the information freely. And the reason I say that is because I am monitored continuously on social media. If I lost my platform, I could help nobody. So please understand that I can't be as explicit and detailed on social media as I can be on Patreon. For just $5 a month, I sound like a TV salesperson now. For $5 a month, you get to come to my coffee morning where you get to ask spiritual or current affair questions. You get a discount on my readings and events. I've got some new events up there that have got some nice juicy discounts in Patreon. You get to be a member of the chat. The community that we've built is amazing. We have such good fun in there. There's a newsletter. There's all sorts of things for just $5 a month. There are other levels, and it's up to you whether you join those. But $5 and you get all that, then you should pop along to Patreon and join. Every new member gets a shout out on the podcast. The Patreon members do actually support this podcast, so you don't need to have any ads during listening to it, because I'm sure that you would love to hear some strange ads pop up. Pop along, join Patreon. As of tomorrow, I will be making my 2025 predictions available from the $5 and up members only. It was originally for the Broomstick Besties back in December. Then it got released to the Cauldron Stirrers, and now it is for everyone as of today. So pop along to have a look at that. So let's thank our Patreon members. And I've just got to move this up. Okay. Becca Petro. We have Ralph. Hey, Ralph. Great to see you in the chats today. I hope you weren't too scarred by the chats. Erica, who has joined for 12 months. We have Diane, who has joined for 12 months. We have Caitlin. We have Kat Quartz, who has joined for 12 months. We have Ava, who has joined for 12 months. We have Kirsten. We have Monique, we have Kitten, we have Shantu, we have Wendy, Mia, Amy, and her beaver. Claire, now Amy has a picture of a beaver, just to clarify that. Claire, Trisha, Brittany baby, and Melissa. We have Kim, we have Shelby. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys rock. You really do. You make this podcast possible. You make the time I spend on chats possible. All of that extra information you get is all for you. Now, on to the star of today's show. John Edward is a 25-year veteran of being on our screens. It is the 25-year anniversary of crossing over. He paved the way for mediums such as myself. Not only that, he has been working as a psychic medium for 40 years. I don't know. I think the gentleman ages backwards. He's been doing this for 40 years. He has taught so many people with his demeanor, with his education, with his knowledge, with his real passion. Take a listen to this interview. He was incredibly generous with his time. John Edward. Well, thank you for joining us, John Edward. I'm sure my audience are going to be as excited as I am to hear from you. You've really paved the way for mediumship in an educational way. That's how I like to frame it to a lot of people. Just that education of you don't need a medium. You can actually receive these messages yourself and be open to them. But what do you think is one of the biggest things that people expect from a mediumship reading when they sit down with you?
I think in general, I think that there is an overwhelming expectation of what may happen, which can ultimately lead to extreme disappointment if they don't, one, hear from the person that they want to hear from, and two, don't have the script come out of the medium in the way that they've played it out leading up to their appointment. So one of the things that I will always say publicly when I'm doing my private sessions, I'll always say, I just need you to know that I'm kind of OCD and I have to process information in a very specific way. So even though your loved ones and friends are trying to tell me the things that you so desperately have asked them to say, it still has to come through my filter. So I'm going to mine for the nugget of what I'm looking for as the medium. And I think if you think about the perspective of the medium that you're working with and the intention of the medium that you're working with, that's really important. Because a lot of people, will say to me, I have to get my tissues because you're going to make me cry. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to make you think. And there's a difference.
Yeah. Okay. I sometimes worry that people have this set expectations, and I've had it with clients that have walked away because I didn't repeat what they asked their loved one to say to me in those words.
Right.
They've been pissed. They've walked away and she's not real. And I'm always trying to find, as you say, those nuggets, those very personal bits of evidence. And you're very similar to me in the way that you get it. You'll get it through some memories and some things pertaining to your life.
Like parallels.
Yes, very much.
I'll get it in parallels. I'll get it in a lot of TV and movies and media that I've consumed. And it's like that specific moment in the show when this happened. And I always have to explain, well, this reminds me of that, so I'm going to say this. And then oftentimes my interpretation is not correct. And for anybody that's watching this that may be a practitioner or you're new at doing this or you're just starting out, I'm going to just say it really the way I was told when I first started. And it was probably the best advice somebody gave me. And they said, you don't have to be 100% right. And there was like this pause. And I remember thinking, okay, but you have to strive to be as close to 100% accurate as possible. Yes. And there's a really big difference between looking right and being accurate. And so many times in a session, the person just wants you to be right so that they can feel what they want to feel and that they want to hear from their dad. But sometimes it's their father-in-law. And there may be similarities that you have to discern the difference between. And if somebody's had multiple marriages and they have multiple ex-in-laws, they come through. Your friends' families will come through. Your coworkers' families will come through. So I think it's really important for anybody that's going for a reading, one, to write a list of questions down in advance. Because what you're doing is you're putting an invite out to the universe. Hey, I want these things addressed. In other words, you're basically manifesting the answers to the questions that you have. And the medium is just one tool the universe is going to use. And by the way, that could be for a psychic, for an astrologer. You're putting out there what it is that you're looking for guidance and insights and solutions on. And hopefully that's going to give you an informed understanding of what your free will and choices can be. And I don't think anybody should make a decision based upon an astrologer, a numerologist, a medium, you have to kind of use that as your own kind of grounding and understanding, and then make your decision. But by writing a list of questions out ahead of time, it does two things. One, it manifests that invite. But then at the end of your session, when the person who's reading you says, "Do you have any questions?" you're not going to have that moment of, "Oh my God, I had so many questions." And immediately you're going to think about the reading that just happened. And you're going to think about what did come through or what didn't come through. You're going to forget what those objective questions are. So if you have them written out, then you could go, hold on. You can look down your list quickly, see what was asked, what was answered, and then ask what isn't.
Yeah, often the questions will come to me or before they've even had an opportunity to ask them. And that's them putting that energy out there, ready for them to come in. But I have found on occasion when I'm doing a mediumship reading, and I had an incident recently where somebody's sister came through, and it was really clear that it was his sister, and she kept giving him a name. And it was, she wants to talk about Valerie. She wants to talk about Valerie. So I don't know who Valerie is. I have absolutely no idea. And I always say, she is really insistent. I cannot take it away. Write it down. Okay. Right. It's going to make sense. About 2 days later, I get an email saying, Valerie was my car. I used to pick her up from work every day. So they're going to come through with those really personal bits of evidence. And I've spent a lot of time trying to educate people what to expect from a medium. You've got to set your expectations for the evidence at a level, because there's been so many mediums on social media that are not trained or they're still developing.
I legitimately block most of the people that come across my feed because I can't. I'll either get myself canceled because I don't have a filter when it comes to protecting the integrity of the subject matter. Yeah. So when I see people almost embodying the energy like they're having a conversation, it's probably been my biggest like ew or annoyance from when I was a kid. When I would watch, people do mediumship demonstration work, and they would talk out loud to the soul that's crossed and have that energy seem like they're having a conversation, and then turn around and give like a random factoid that didn't sound like you were having a conversation. It would be like me, like if you're the spirit and you and I are speaking, I'll go, yes, I'm going to tell them, Matilda. And then I turn around and go, blue. She's telling me blue. It's like you can't have this conversation and then turn around and not relay back in translation. So I always felt like take the client on the journey of what the experience is and help them understand how you're communicating. And that comes from when I started. This is my 40th year doing this. 40 years ago, 15 years old, seeing people that were 40 and 50 years old at the time treat me like they were here and I was here, and there was no like assisting me to understand it. Everything I had to learn, my guides trained me in a really hard way. There was no mediumship school. I didn't sit in development circles. It was them disciplining me as a kid, letting me make mistakes, and kind of come to the understanding through how I felt as a result of those mistakes. So when I watch people have these like conversations, and it's like, oh, they're telling me, John, tell my son that I love them. Platitudes and philosophy does not make a reading.
I get, like you, I've blocked so many people, and I also block a lot of new age content as well, because I think it really muddies the water of what real education, the afterlife, the continuation of consciousness. It takes so much away from the purity of what we do. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that we're holier than thou or anything like that.
No. It's the opposite.
What we have.
It's the opposite. It's the humanity of what we do and the grounding of, I remember when Crossing Over was on the air, there was something that was in development or was coming on TV. There was like another show that was going to be on. And I remember the network and some of the producers were like, this is going to be our competition. And I heard it like 2 or 3 times. And then in a meeting with everybody there, I just basically said, what exactly are we competing over? Whose clients had a better death? Like, listen to the words
Oh
you're
my
saying.
goodness.
And once I kind of like, grounded in the reality of we're not doing a TV show. These are events and they happen to be televised. And Crossing Over was based on my live events, which, by the way, haven't changed since I was a kid doing my live events. An
Yeah.
executive came and saw me do what I do and said, "That's what I want." And even when I tried on Crossing Over now 25 years ago this year, when I tried to, be like more professional, I remember the executive at the time, her name was Bonnie Hammer, and I
Grand
wanted
Bonnie.
I wanted a, and she lived up to the name. Let me tell you, um, I wanted a co-host because I didn't want to do any of the TV stuff, and and I just wanted to read and leave, and when she saw me in t-shirts and jeans, and I had I think contacts in. I had my contacts in. So the day that she came, I was wearing a three-piece suit and my glasses were on because I wanted to appear older and I wanted to have an executive look and I wanted, it was the first show of its kind. I wanted
Yeah.
people to take it seriously. I didn't want it to seem carnival-y. I didn't want it to seem like reality television. And by the way, I was being produced by the same folks who did Sally Jesse Raphael, Jerry Springer, Maury Povich. That's the time period that this show was
Mm.
being developed in. So I was paranoid. I wanted it to be very, very much like real. And the day that I changed up my wardrobe, not a sweater or t-shirt and jeans, Bonnie Hammer showed up, stopped production, pulled me off the set, said, "Go up to the dressing room, take off that suit, put in your contacts. I want people to see the person that I saw at the Westbury Holiday Inn in Long Island." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." I was like, "Okay." And she
Yeah.
had her birthday's like a day apart from my mom's, and we had a very, very awesome connection. And even though I don't talk to her, I still feel it. Anyway, long story short, I went up and, no co-host. I had to host the show. My contacts were in, and I had to be casual, but the work was still professional. And I had to balance the energy of me, the person, with me, the practitioner. And
Yeah.
I think there's a big issue with folks that are doing this work online because anybody that's got a device, right? Anybody's got a device is
Mhm.
now a chef, is now a news reporter, is now a medium. They're
Yeah.
anything, and on some level, awesome. How great is that? There's so many recipes that are amazing from families and amazing home chefs. But as amazing as you may be as a TikTok influencer and a home cook and have a cookbook and do all that, you may not be able to actually open and run a restaurant for hundreds of people. It's a very, very big difference. So somebody may be intuitive and they may be psychic and they may get information, they may have precognitive moments and dreams. It doesn't mean that they should be doing readings professionally for somebody else without understanding the gravity of the responsibility of what comes with it.
That that's my biggest point. It's the gravity and the damage you can do to somebody's mental health by some
Mm-hmm.
of the information. And I pick up the pieces from a lot of mediums that have done readings. Nobody is stuck. Everybody goes to the afterlife.
I can't. One of the things that I've heard is that I'm sorry, I can't make a connection with your whomever because they need more prayers. Um, they need more prayers. They're stuck. Um, they're not ready to come through yet. And I hear this stuff, and I'm like, mm, no, not. And this is after, by the way, this is after I've done the reading, and the person's just come through beautifully,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that they validated the session, but they still have that. Are you sure they're not stuck? I'm like, did I say that? I'm like, I didn't say that. I said the person that told you that didn't give you any other validation to help support that fact.
Yeah.
Um, I tell this story often. I might even tell it when I was on stage in Australia. There was a UK tour that I did, and every time I got to the venue, everybody at the event, nobody made eye contact with me, and
Yeah.
nobody talked to me, and I was like, wow, this is really weird, you know. I mean, I love coming to Australia because everybody's just awesome. And going to the UK, it's very, very different. They're, it's a little bit more buttoned up and a little bit more, but they're still, amazing people. So I was
Having
like, it's a little
having lived
different,
in both places.
right? So then I would do the event, and then after the event, like night after night, city after city, the people that worked at the venue would come up and start asking me a lot of questions. Because what they watched is Katrina would come in, and Katrina's the person who like works with me, like kind of the VP of JE, and she like runs my events and runs my app, and
Yeah.
she would come in maybe an hour before to make sure that everything was happening correctly at the front of house and with tickets and if there's going to be any VIPs or whatever. And then I would walk in maybe 5 minutes before I have to be on stage, literally 5 minutes before, take the microphone and start. And they were like, "Wait a second, where are the lighting cues? Where are the musical cues? Where's the how does he know where he's gonna? How do the people in the ushers in the audience how do they know where to go with the microphones?" And she would say, "Well, I'm not psychic, so I don't know. But as soon as he starts reading someone, he's gonna make them stand up, and then you'll get the microphones." And we were having this one specific tour was just like really kind of a little wonky. And then we got to Dublin. And when we got to Dublin, the stage manager there cleared everything up for us. There was another medium, and that medium was doing a tour. And that medium had lighting cues, musical cues. They knew where in the theater that person was going to be read. Yes. And it was very, very performance based. So I was like doing a PhD TED talk in physics compared to what they had witnessed, which was extremely circusy. And
Mhm.
then they told me the story that this medium walked out on stage and started using, you better hold on to your chair, started using a childlike voice and to the theater was saying, um, "Mommy, mommy, can somebody help me find my mommy?" I legitimately I thought my blood pressure was going to go through the roof. I looked at that guy and I went, I would be arrested. I would legitimately make the news wherever this was because there's no way I would be able to be in a room and watch that happen and my Scorpio rising would kick in and I'd be like, I call complete bullshit. Like absolutely not. I was
It's
outraged
people are making it to be entertainment, to be performative, and it should be always educational
and
and
empowering and
and
empowering.
empowering. It should never. This is the thing that I find with so many people that if they have a because there's always mediumship and psychic in my readings,
Right.
so I mix the two up. They're never going to tell you what to do. They're going to give you the tools. They want to empower you. They want to empower you. And that's what a reading should always be about. It should always be empowering. And you should walk away from a reading going, I have an understanding. I now know what direction I need to go in. I know that my loved one is okay and that they're around me. That's what you should walk away from a reading.
And you should walk away with a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
You should be inquisitive. Like your story about Valerie, I don't think that's by accident. I think that that person's loved one chose that knowing that he would not remember that. And 2 or 3 days or weeks later, when that penny drops, when that moment of aha kicks in, that is now a post validation of the experience of the connection, which shows the continuity of them still being a part of our lives. I love
Yeah.
that. I love when they give future events because that means that they can see what's coming up for us and that they're a part of it. I love when somebody who's had Alzheimer's or dementia comes through and they like retrospectively look at and talk about the events they were still living for but couldn't be a part of, but now they have
Yeah.
access to. And they're like, they know that? I'm like, yeah, they know that.
Yeah. I had, and sometimes a mediumship reading isn't always about having a reading with that loved one that you were close to. Because I've had many people come through where there's been either discourse in the relationship or they've been estranged from. And recently I did one during one of my group events because I do a lot of group events, and somebody came through and was talking about how precious a specific day was, and they were all wearing blue, and it was one of his favourite memories. And she had to go away. She had no idea. She didn't have a close relationship with her father. There was a lot of discourse, and she messaged me. She actually sent me the photograph. It was her christening, and all of them are in bright blue. And she said, I now know that he did love me.
And that's a validation that she couldn't possibly know because it didn't happen in a conscious way that she would be able to be a part of.
Yeah. And I love it when relationships can be mended, even though the person, we don't want to be in that situation. We want people to, be able to express those things when they're alive. It's not always possible.
But sometimes they can't, right? Sometimes they can. I'm one of those people. I had a very, very difficult relationship with my dad. I made a decision to kind of like extricate myself from him. I didn't even know my father was sick. I had been that removed from him. And when he passed, I found out like after the fact. The moment I found out that he had passed, every ounce of boundary that I had, every wall that was up, I dropped. And I basically said, you're welcome in now. Like you can have access to my life. You have access to your grandson. I embrace your energy because I know you're no longer playing the role that you were playing, so you can't affect or hurt me in that capacity. Our dynamic is now different. So I welcomed him in. There was no, and that's right. I try to share that with people as often as possible because if you didn't get a chance to say those things, you can now. If you didn't get a chance to express how you feel about that person, you can now.
And writing letters is a great way as well. If people want to express themselves and their loved one has passed, I've had a lot of conversations and a lot of writing repeated to me during a reading. And I just think that's a nice way. It's, I suppose, another way of journaling. You can journal how you feel. You can journal about how they made you feel and that you want to mend it now that they've passed, and they can come through and express that during reading.
I explain it as a text exchange. When you're texting with someone, you send a message. If that person doesn't have their read receipts on, you don't know if they got it. You don't know if they read it. They may not be available. They may not be able to respond right away. They may have no service, but you still send that message in the hopes that they're going to acknowledge it. Yes. Think about that if you're watching this. Think about you projecting your message to them or writing that message down in a letter or in some type of notes app, however it is that you do it for you. I sometimes tell people to really be as vulnerable as they can in their writing and then to burn it. To burn it to make sure that nobody else can read it.
Yes. Yeah, no, I've given that advice on a number of occasions, and I think it really is very valid. One of my favourite things is when people will they'll sit down for reading and they haven't told the rest of the family. So the family don't know that they're having a mediumship reading. Yet the conversations that have even gone on during the reading or just before at a distance are repeated, and they have to go away and they suddenly get validation from it at a later stage. Have you experienced that as well?
I have indeed.
It's always really interesting when you get that email afterwards going, well, that was the group chat with the family and you were mentioning this country, that happened and all of that. How would you suggest people prepare for more one-on-one reading? We'll talk about group readings in a minute, but those one-on-one readings, because you still do personal readings.
I would want them to write a list of questions down, like we discussed. Write a list of questions down, things, even if just areas that you want addressed. And then I would also suggest that they think about who's crossed over that they've been thinking about. Like, maybe not just the people that you're hoping to hear from, but like the random neighbor that popped in your head for no reason. Write that down. And write down names, initials, birthdays, death dates, anniversaries, things that they can use as a shorthand or as a validation for you. And then, create different boxes on a piece of paper, like mom's side, dad's side, mother-in-law's side, father-in-law's side. Because when the reading happens, you then also know where to put the information. Like, I'm going to put question marks or on this side, or put a question on dad's side. This way you may know where to go. The other thing is I would tell them to kind of just expect something from the process, not from the individual energy that's coming through. Like you should expect validation of information. You should not just accept philosophical things. I always tell my clients, every medium knows the why you're sitting in front of them. You want to
Yeah.
know that your loved ones and friends are okay, that they're with you, that there's a survival of consciousness, that life and love are eternal, that they see what's happening in your life since they've crossed over, that they're not mad, angry, or disappointed in anything that you've done since they passed. That's why you're sitting in front of me. Every client goes yes, whether it's in a group or a one-on-one. I go, now, we also know how they want to communicate. They don't want to use me. Nobody in spirit wants to use a medium. They want to go direct. They want to go directly to their loved one. But if that loved one's in deep grief, they may not be able to recognize beyond the initial patterns. So I say, they're going to come through to you, and they're going to come through to you in patterns. And then I will go over the different patterns: cardinals, butterfly, feathers, finding change, seeing 1111, license plates, signs, all the different ways. All of that to me, talking about like tattoos and jewelry, like unless they're going to give me something to back it up, like the story about the ring, the story about the tattoo, the story about the
Yeah.
photo,
Mm-hmm.
all those things to me off the table in a reading. I
Yes.
think you have to make sure that you're not allowing and accepting just the philosophy of connecting with that relationship, because everybody wants their mom to love them. Everybody wants to have a
Mm-hmm.
nurturing relationship. But how many times in a reading do you have to say to the person, "I'm so sorry. Can I be personal? Your your mom was difficult, or your mom was not an easy person." If
Yeah.
that person says, "No, she was," then we got two things going on. Either I'm not talking to their mom and I have to identify who this maternal energy is that I'm getting, or they're not wanting to acknowledge that their mom really was difficult because now she's passed and they feel bad. So now,
Yes.
as the medium, we have to discern the difference. Is it me that's misinterpreting, or is it them that they just don't want to? And then they'll actually go, "Yeah, I guess she kind of was difficult." I'm like, "Well, listen, it's not you talking negatively about her. She's actually giving it to me. You're just
Yeah.
validating what her perspective is."
She's being honest that she was difficult. I I th- there's a lot of expectation of
Sure.
that, as you say, the your mum loves you. I want to know that she's proud of me. I want to know, and they are. They are. They have that. But they also want to know that you're okay. It's when
Right.
do you ever get the people questioning, are they happy with what I did with the car? Are they happy with what I did with the house? And the answer is always they just want you to be happy.
Yeah, they don't care about stuff.
No.
The only value here is about love, communication, and humanity. Those are the
Yes.
important lessons for the soul. Love, humanity, communication. Like what are those lessons? That's the value we take over with us. You know,
Yes.
you're not taking your diamonds, you're not taking your car, you're not taking your house. Things of the physical world value don't have. It's like monopoly money in spirit. It's not the core of what is the commodity of the spirit in the universe. Energy is.
Yeah. What would you say? Because I get asked this a lot, and sometimes I stumble on it a little bit. How would you find a medium that you trust or
Oof.
that you can trust? Because we are inundated with so many on social media.
Right.
We've touched on that, and yes, I'm surprised I haven't lost my account through that. But yeah, we are inundated with so many options. What
So
would you say the key things to look for are?
their ego. Where's their ego?
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to have enough ego to do this. I call it
Yes.
shot glass ego when I'm doing workshops. I tell people you have to have a shot glass worth of ego.
Yeah.
And I use the shot glass because then they think like a shot of whiskey. You don't want to have 16 ounces of whiskey. You want a shot of that. You have a shot of ego. And that shot of ego kind of gives you the tenacity to call yourself a medium and to actually do the work.
Yes.
Anything more than a shot glass worth of ego, now it's gonna overflow and make a mess. It's gonna get in the way of the session because now that medium's gonna think they can't be wrong. Guess what? You can be. You will be.
Yeah.
Right? So that's number one. You have to be able to recognize you're trying to be accurate, so you may look wrong. You may be very accurate while looking very wrong. Do that in front of thousands of people online, you're going to get ridiculed. I've been ridiculed my entire 44 decades of being
Yeah,
ridiculed.
I know.
It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm okay with that. You develop a really, really like thick skin. There's a medium from London. His name is Robert Brown, and he would always say, you have to have the hide of a rhino to be a medium, and the heart of a deer.
Mm-hmm. That's a good analogy. That's great.
That's that, and I also think like what I just did, like I could have just repeated that to you. I could have just said, you have to have the hide of a rhino and the heart of a deer. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing that I have an issue with. I've been doing this for a really long time. And there's a lot of stuff that I know that I've put out there into the world and other people will use and they don't ever give credit.
Credit.
They just take it and then they run with it. Now, my shot glass worth of ego goes, that's annoying. But the other part of me goes, that's cool. And that's creating a lexicon. That's creating a way that people are using the subject matter. And let me get out of the way of that because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach. I can't, as a math teacher, go, I came up with addition. No, 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 no. I taught addition this way. I didn't come up with math. I didn't come up with math. I came up with how I taught math. And there may be a JE kind of vibe to it that eventually they make their own. And you know what? I did the same exact thing with the person that I worked with and I taught. I took their teachings, I made it my own, and went out there. And I remember years later when I said to her, I kind of find it amazing. I went back and looked at some of the, core materials that you taught. I was like, our guides must be very, very similar. And she very, very nicely and very, very sweetly said, well, I'm sure that we have similar guides, but I was your teacher. And although you may not remember some of the basic tenets of my teaching, it's nice to see how that sprouted and I'm in there. And I was like, oh, that was Sandy Anastasia humbling my ass right there in that moment. And you know what? Beautifully done. Not like in my face, just a reminder. And I think that's important. Like, I will always, always, I have people that I haven't talked to in decades that I haven't seen. I don't even know where they are. Still credit them. Some of them have passed. And I think it's really important. And the only person that I could say to me that did that was Alison Dubois, the woman that was the show Medium was based on.
Yes.
When we first had a conversation, I was my first time ever talking to her. She said, before we go any further, she's like, can I just say something to you? And I'm like, sure. We're over the phone. I was like, sure. She goes, thank you. And I was like, for what? She goes, if there wasn't a you, there would never have been a me. So I just wanted to say thank you. And it actually made me emotional because I wasn't expecting it. I didn't see it coming. And she said, listen, she goes, for what you did and accomplished in this work at the time that you did it, when nobody else was doing it publicly like that, she goes, you broke through a glass ceiling. She goes, and the person that breaks through a glass ceiling always has to bleed. There's always scars. And she's like, so thank you. And I had never heard it like that. So that was kind of cool. So I tell people, if you listen to someone that does this work and it's all about me, 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 and it's not about the process, the subject matter, if they can't say, like Robert Brown said, or like Suzanne Northrop said, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging somebody else. And if a person can do that, then it means they're secure in their abilities. So I'm looking for somebody who's ethical and responsible, who's accurate, but also secure in who they are. I remember I was probably like 16, 17 at the time. And I was telling a client, you've seen me, and I'm like one instrument in the orchestra of spirit. Maybe go find somebody else the next time you want to do this. And then they would leave, and my grandmother would look at me, and she would go, why are you telling people not to come back and see you? I said, because I don't want to foster a dependency on me. Yeah. Like, I don't want them to externalize their grief and say, I've got to go to John Edward to have a conversation with my son. No, you don't. You came to me. I showed you the potential is there. Now go have that conversation. And part of that conversation is, and I have this in front of me all the time when I'm reading, is trusting that they're there. And I like to use analogies that people will never forget. And sometimes they're on purpose, they're crass. And one of the things that I'll tell people is, you don't have to cut yourself and bleed to know that you have blood in your body. Like, you don't have to do that. You just know that you have blood in your body. We don't have to pierce that veil to spirit and have information come through to know that they're there. We just
Yeah.
have to we just have to trust and know that they're with us. And that's where a knowing and a belief system and a philosophy is really, really important because it's what gets us through in the darkest moments. And I will always tell people that getting a reading didn't help me navigate my own personal grief. It was doing readings that did it because I had
Yes.
objectivity.
Yeah. And I also think that there should be no competition between
No,
real mediums.
what are you
They
competing
have to
over?
be, yeah, exactly. People should be drawn, well, are drawn to the person that's going to give them the information that they need and educate them in a way that suits them. And not everyone, I know that I can be blunt. We know that. Not everyone is going to resonate with that. And they need their hand holding a little bit more. So,
Still to quote Robert Brown from London, he and I in 1996, that's how far back we go, we were doing double demonstrations at the same hotel in Long Island. He was seeing clients on Long Island, and he got done with his group. I was still going. He came and sat in the back of my room for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we got in the car to drive. And he stopped and he turned and looked at me, and he goes, "You know, you're not for everyone, right?" And I like looked at him. I went, "What?" And he goes, "Your style, your tenacity." He goes, "You know, some people may need a little bit more of a delicate hand, right?" And I went, "Well, let's hope the universe knows where to send these people." I go, "Because
exactly.
what you see is what you get."
I say that all the time, and I have a Patreon page where I've got quite a good community, and I always say, because I swear a lot, I know I do, but they always think they know that it's me, they know they can trust me because I'm as blunt as can possibly be, and I just want people to really embrace the fact that their loved ones are around them every day, that they can talk to them, they can see the signs,
Yep.
and I did a talking about those messages that you get. My mum passed away 13 years ago, and last week was the anniversary of her passing. And I've taken to listening to audiobooks. I lost my dog about 3 weeks ago, and it's
Oh, I'm so
been
sorry.
really my house is empty because I'm an empty nester. And so I've been taking to doing the audiobooks whilst I'm doing stuff just to keep myself occupied. And I changed books on the morning of the anniversary of her passing. Now, not to take anything away from my mum, but I hadn't realised it was that day.
Right.
Okay? 13 years, sometimes we forget. And her name, first and surname, was a character in that book and was said in the first 5 minutes 3 times. And I went, okay, thanks, Mum. And I still
Sometimes it's
have, yeah, I still have the
sometimes
last shopping list on my fridge that she gave me. And it then got knocked off, and I went, okay, thanks, Mum. But I don't always get that real connection, but I get the messages.
see
And I
that's
think
how,
we can all get that.
but that's how people think I'm having like dialogues with my family. I'm
Yeah,
like, No, I'm uploading to them my thoughts. I'm constantly projecting to them as if like I'm having a cell phone conversation one way with them. And then I know that they will let me know that they're around. Now, my mom's gone over 30 years, and I was doing an event, and where the hotel was, there was I my room wasn't available, so I had to be moved to a different hotel. So I was moved to a different hotel. The area that I was moved to was under construction. So in my mind, I'm like, what kind of ridiculous astrology is happening right now? Like, what is in retrograde that's making all of this travel complication, event
yeah,
complication? No, no. There was a master plan that was so much bigger than all of that. That was pretty awesome. So, a very quick backstory. My mom's numbers that she used to see all the time would be 721 and 927. And it was a joke. She'd be like, "There's my number. There's my number." And I used to be like, "Oh my God, you're looking for it. So, of course, you're going to find it." And she would say, "No, those are my numbers." So now I'm going to my event. I get rerouted because of construction, and I'm now going to be late because of construction to my own event. and I'm trying to accelerate to change lanes. Can't. Small school bus is in front of me. The school bus goes fast and then slams on its brakes. I almost hit it because there was a light that I didn't see. The number of the school bus were my mom's numbers. So I was like, okay, you wanted me to see that. That's awesome. But I'm not the numbers guy. You're going to have to do better than that. And this is me being playful with my mom in spirit, right?
Uh-huh.
Then the bus takes off through the light. It goes through the light. And I was like, okay. And I'm now stopped at the light. And I look at the street sign. And the street sign said Pan Coast Street, Pan Coast Avenue. And I about like gasped in the car. My mom had a Pan Coast tumor. That was the type of tumor that she had. I get the chills even telling you this. And I just was like, okay, that was good. That was good. And
I love it though. This is when people aren't paying attention, when they've got their head in the phone, when they're not, she had to put that bus there to stop you.
Right. And get my attention to the numbers.
Yeah.
And then the driver had to go through a red light.
Uh-huh.
For me to stop to see the street sign.
Yeah.
Like, awesome.
The amount of things, it still surprises me, even though I do this work, even though I have that connection, the coincidences, the things that Spirit will put in front of me constantly really still make me smile, still give me that.
Does it surprise you, or does it, like, recharge you?
It recharges.
Yeah, it's like an energetic, like, reminder, like, oh, that's right. And that's the other thing I would tell people that are doing this work. If anybody's a practitioner, not about you. Like, you can't do this without them. Like, you are just a phone, right? So, like, I think it's really important for people to come from a place of Dr. Wayne Dyer, motivational speaker, best-selling author, life coach, now in spirit. I had the opportunity of going to see him in person in New York. And not because I felt like I wanted to go, but a really good friend of mine loved him. Like, just loved him. Got tickets and we went. And I don't know past the first 10 minutes anything else that this man said, because the two things that he opened with legitimately had me sitting there in my own head for about 2 hours after that. And the two things were, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. There's about 500 people of you in this room right now, but I only have to worry about how one person thinks I do tonight. And that's me when I get home. And I was like, oh my God. He goes, because if I have to worry about 500 people, then I got to call 500 people and go, how did I do? How did I do? How did I do? How did I do? But if I do my best and I could look myself in the mirror tonight and know that I did my best, then I only have to worry about one person. For me, that was important. And then the best one was, and I always say this before I walk out to my, events, and I do now as well. Please help me surrender my ego and serve.
That is amazing, because we have to get out of our own way to be able to receive it's such I try and explain it to people, and people that don't actually do it sometimes don't understand, but we have to translate the information that's being given to us whilst getting out of the way and making sure that memory, that information that I've seen in the past, or the information that I'm receiving, is nothing to do with me, and I have to step out of my own way whilst delivering the information. Do you
Yes.
You would understand what I'm saying.
But 100%.
It's such a contradiction. And I've only recently started doing group events again. I took a huge break during COVID, obviously. And I started doing the Zoom events. And every time before a Zoom event, I have about 2 hours beforehand, I have a little bit of a panic. What if no one comes through? What if nothing's going to happen? What if I'm completely wrong? And then about half an hour, and I'm meditating and praying, and I get this calm. And everything works. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that? I mean, you've been doing this for decades.
A long time.
Yeah.
I don't really have that. Like, I kind of, I am so into the zone of like it's not about me and I trust that this is going to happen the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
I'm in a different spot. I've kind of been the same since I was a kid, and that is I used to do a lot of house parties. So today's Zoom groups way
Oh, that
back
has fun. Yeah.
way back in the 19th century when I started was legitimately house parties where I was like, in somebody's house reading like 10 to 20 people a night. And I would stand by the front door of my grandmother's house and I would have this feeling of like dread. And she would stand there like she would look at me and she'd go, "The sooner you go, the sooner you come back." And then she would say to me, do you like doing what you do? And I was like, I love doing what I do. And then she's like, then what's the problem? And I'd be like, "Ugh, just it's just the going, you know? So I still have that. It doesn't matter where I am. Like my human
Mhm.
side has that moment of like, oh my God, I gotta get like the travel out of the
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's not me driving 45 minutes somewhere in New York. It's
No, it's
it's being on planes in different continents and all of that. And I give myself that moment to feel that because it's human and you have to feel it. And then I come to the place of absolute gratitude to recognize
yeah.
that I have this ability, and it's the same feeling of gratitude that I remember when I walked onto the stage at Crossing Over and I would like look at everybody in the audience. I wasn't standing on that illuminated stage for John Edward. I was standing on that stage for the Matildas and the Anns and the
You
Sues and for every
absolutely.
person out there. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, the universe gave me this like huge responsibility. And I think, and I've said this publicly before, and I'll say it here, I didn't enjoy it. Like, I didn't enjoy doing Crossing Over. Like, it wasn't a fun experience for me. So if the me of today could try time travel back to the me of then, I would say, this is going to be hard. And this is going to be very, very high pressure. Don't change anything that you're doing. Be the absolute ass to the networks and the executives that you're going to be to protect the subject matter. Do you, but have fun. Like, just have fun. Because I didn't have fun. And I feel bad now, like in hindsight. So if there's
Mhm.
anybody that's going through something right now where you're excited or you're enthusiastic, but you're nervous or it's high pressured. This is a moment in time. Like this, you're hearing me right now for a reason. This is a moment in time in your life within your universe. You're never going to get this back again. So, whatever this moment is, enjoy it. Take a moment, take a beat. Whether you're getting engaged or married, planning something, planning the wedding, planning the party, changing jobs, starting that house, moving apartments, whatever it is that you're doing, that quote unquote life is happening, have fun. Have fun.
I love, I absolutely love what I do. I'm so lucky to have a job that I do. I don't know whether you know, but I'm actually a doctor of economics. That's the change of. I worked that while still doing
Right.
readings and still mentoring, and it took me a lot of courage because I come from a very Irish Catholic family. My father is Irish Catholic. My mother was Romany, so there was that real divide of what you should and shouldn't talk about.
Right.
So it took me a lot of getting over their expectations or their judgment to do it. But I'm very grateful that I get to do it. And I absolutely love being able to bring the education and the peace to people. But it's 25 years since crossing over
Mm,
this year.
it is.
And
It is indeed.
that really did pave the way for mediums like me to have the courage. And I did want to thank you because your delivery and the way you've taught me so much about delivering messages with ethics and making sure that I get the messages across in a way that people understand. So I do want to thank you. You have paved the way for people like me. And as Alison
Thank you.
Dubois said, you broke the glass ceiling for us all.
Well, I enjoy, when I watch you, I enjoy, like, you're scrappy. Like, you get in there.
Yeah, I know.
Like, like you have all these messages that are complimentary. You'll pick the one message where
Yeah,
somebody, like the one comment where somebody's like, you got that wrong. And you're
Yeah.
like, you'll take that like to task. And I'm like, you know what? These are teachable moments. And that's something
And
that you,
that's what people miss. They say, ignore the haters, block them. Yeah, but then I miss the opportunity to teach.
right.
And I may not be everyone's teacher, and I may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I get the message across. And I hate whiners. I hate whiners. I hate people that complain because
I love the Australian version of that word.
whining.
Nope. Yeah, whining.
Yeah, the whiners, the whining. I hate people that whine.
What is it? Isn't it whinging? Don't you guys say
Whinging.
whinging?
Yes, whinging.
I love that
Yeah,
word. That's like
the
that.
whingers.
Yep. When I hear that, I'm like, oh, I'm in Australia.
Yeah, yeah. And you are coming to Australia
I
in,
am at
is
the
it
end of this year. Yeah,
at the end of
November.
this year?
The end of
So
October, November.
November.
And
Okay, so you are in
it's been Adelaide, Melbourne, Perth, all the capital cities,
all the capital
Canberra.
cities.
Yep. I think
Okay.
Geelong. I'm doing Geelong.
Who's in
Geelong.
Geelong?
Geelong. Yes. I think I'm doing
Okay.
Geelong.
But I've seen you in Melbourne 4 times.
Oh wow. I look forward to meeting you in person.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is
Thank
a
you.
real full circle moment for me after watching you on Crossing Over and knowing that it sort of gave a name to what I could do. It was the days before the internet. It was the days before we really understood, a lot of mediums really understood what they could do. And you've taught me so much, and I know
Thank
you
you.
continue to teach.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to meeting you in person. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you again, John Edward, for joining us on Beyond This. I cannot thank you enough. It was just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. As I said, I had so many more questions I wanted to ask. So many more came to me after our conversation. So there is an open invitation for John to join us again at any stage he wants. Now, if you are in Australia, I know that John tours the US continuously and there are many, many dates, but if you are in Australia, I have put a link in the show notes for where you can get tickets. I know that he is also touring areas of Victoria, but that is not up there yet. So keep an eye on his tickets. So the link is in the show notes. I also have put a link in for Evolve Plus. Evolve Plus is an app that is anything you could possibly want to learn about different modalities of spirituality. There are so many educational videos by John himself and other practitioners. You will see some faces that you know, such as Megan Alyssa and Pam Sears. Jonathan Louis is on there too. I think it's Jonathan Lewis. I don't know why I keep calling him Jonathan Louis. He's on there too. There is a lot of information. A lot of questions can get answered. So Evolve Plus, I think it's Evolve Plus TV, but I'm going to put the link in the show notes so that you can go along and have a look. But that is John Edward's app for all things spiritual. Go and take a look at that. Thank you guys for joining me this week. I hope that interview was interesting for you. We are traveling on a new pathway with Beyond This, and I really hope that you can come along for the ride. We will be diving into all things afterlife, mediumship, intuition, all of those things that I get asked a lot of questions about. I am going to make podcast episodes about. So please follow on whatever platform you are listening. Please follow us, leave a review. I would be very, very grateful for that. I'm going to give you a couple of predictions, as I always do, for the coming weeks. And I don't really need to talk about the energy at the moment because it is really, really rough. For those of you on my Patreon, you will know that I got hit by a 3-day migraine over the weekend, literally Saturday through to Monday, I was gone. There was nothing I could do to feel better. And that seems to be a pattern for a lot of people over the last 3 days. So I hope those of you that have been feeling very unenergetic, exhausted, etc., feel a little bit better. Please look after yourselves. What I want to say about the coming couple of weeks, you will see more happening in Congress in the US. There's going to be some argy-bargy. I think there's going to be a bit of a mutiny. Not massive, just enough to start a ripple effect. I am worried about the UK. Now, I have already made a prediction about electricity shortages in the UK. I do feel that's coming in late June, early July. Be prepared. I spoke about electricity outages around the world globally. I did say that I felt Europe was going to be hit. That has happened. Those of you that have been following me for a couple of years know that I pinpointed 2025, 2026 as those years to be prepared. Food shortages because of transport, because of trade wars, because of weather. Get prepared now. Have a little bit of cash on hand. Start stocking up on your batteries and your torches, your flashlights, whatever it is you need. Get it now. There is a list in the latest newsletter, the newsletter that went out for March. That is currently the latest newsletter in the Patreon, has all those details in it. So please be aware that this summer, in Northern Summer, is going to see a lot of power shortages. I don't know why. I wish I did, but that's all I've got right now. Do expect impeachment news by the end of May. And as far as Australia, yes, we have a general election on the 3rd of May or the 4th of May. I don't remember. I don't get to vote, unfortunately. I know, I should. I will next time. I still think it's going to either be a hung parliament or having to form some form of joint coalition, something similar to that. I don't think it's going to be a clear-cut outcome. Hope that helps. For those of you interested, I have an intuition course and a manifesting course. Both have been released. The discounts for both those courses are available in and for Patreon supporters, quite significant discounts. They're available for Patreon supporters. Be quick, these courses will fill up. The intuition course has already started to fill up. It's all about listening to your guides, seeing the signs from spirit, being open, being aware, and listening to your guidance and your higher self. All that information is in the show notes. All right, my loves, thank you for your continual support. I can't wait to be back with you next week. I'm actually going on holiday. I'm going to record next week's podcast episode this weekend because I'm going on holiday for a week. Am I putting my feet up for 6 days? I will be sat by the pool and I will be on the beach, but I will be writing because I've got a bit overdue with some work that I should have done a while ago. But I'm taking myself away to enjoy that. As you probably all know, I should be in Hawaii this week. And that didn't happen, did it? Anyway, lots of love. Thank you for your continued support, and I will catch you all soon. Take care.